Welcome to Build on Balancer, the place to find out about projects and protocols then build on top of Balancer. For today's first episode, I have a very special guest, Anna Geroge, CEO of CowSwap. Anna, welcome to Build on Balancer. Very happy to have you here.
Thank you so much. Super happy to be here as well.
To give listeners a hint about CowSwap, it's a permissionless trading protocol that uses batch auctions. In June, it handled almost 1.5 billion in USD dollars. However, before we talk all things CowSwap, I would like to ask you, Anna, what's your story? How did you get into Web3?
Cool, for sure. I think my story dates back to probably Christmas 2016. Back then, I was living in New York and was working for the United Nations. So it wasn't related to crypto or blockchain at all. And then my brother, who was working for Consensus at the time, he was visiting me in New York and invited me to the Consensus Christmas party. And that was a fun night in the office in Bushwick. And I got to know a lot of Consensus folks and stayed in touch with a few of them. And they also started to invite me to crypto meetups in New York, which I started to attend. And then at the same time, even at the United Nations, they started to look suddenly into blockchain technology and got very excited about it, which almost was like a negative signal to the extent that you're like, wow, if even such a bureaucratic organization like the UN is looking into blockchain, then I'm already probably quite late to the trend. And then I started reading more and more about it and got more excited. And then decided to leave the UN and to join Gnosis, which is one of the OG startups essentially that has been in the space and was working already on top of Ethereum before Ethereum even launched. And yeah, since 2017, I've been with Gnosis and have been with them ever since. Just at beginning of this year in March, then we spun out of Gnosis with our own company that is now CowSwap.
Wow, one night changed it all for you. So now maybe we dive a bit into CowSwap. I'm sure a lot of the people out there have heard about DEXs and know what is a DEX aggregator, but probably not so many know about what is a MetaDEX aggregator. What's the difference between the two?
Cool. Yeah, I would say, to put it simple, we are in a way the sky scanner for trading. So right now you have a lot of different DEX aggregators that aggregate all the existing on-chain liquidity, meaning essentially that a user doesn't have to do price comparison anymore between Curve and SushiSwap, Uniswap, and the other AMMs. But they can basically go to one single app, place a trade, and be ensured that they would get the best price. So this was the case when we had one DEX aggregator. But now we actually have three very prominent DEX aggregators. We have 1inch, we have Paraswap, and we have Matcha. And now if a user goes to one of them, they will most likely get a different price point. So before you had the problem, you had to compare the prices of AMMs. Now you have the problem, you have to compare the prices of DEX aggregators. And CowSwap essentially sits one layer further up on top, and now checks everything for the user. It checks the different AMMs and it checks the different existing DEX aggregators. And this is what we refer to when we reference ourselves as a MetaDEX aggregator. But I would also add, this is by far not everything that CowSwap has to offer.
Yeah, of course. So basically an aggregator of aggregators in short. I know CowSwap stands for coincidence of ones. Maybe we explore a bit this concept. What does it mean?
Cool, yeah, that's a super good question. Actually, there's a deep meaning behind why CowSwap is called CowSwap and why it's all about cows. This COW stands for coincidence of ones. And this is a term that's describing this economic phenomenon of where two parties each are holding one item that the other party wants. And in a way, to basically just describe it in an easy term that everyone knows, it's peer-to-peer. So CowSwap enables peer-to-peer trading between any parties. This way, it can give structurally better prices to the users. And maybe one nice metaphor that we like to use to make it more clear why there is a price benefit for users is imagine that you're on holidays and you need to exchange your money into, let's say you're in China and you want to exchange your euros into the Chinese renminbi. And you're waiting in line at this exchange office. And then there's someone standing right next to you that would actually like to sell their yuan, the Chinese currency, against your euros. So you can either both wait in line and then pay a fee to the office so that you can place your trade, or you would just exchange your currency with each other and then not have to pay any top up to the exchange office. And this is essentially what we do with coincidence of ones. We can match different users directly without taking a fee on top.
Wow, that's really interesting. I know another feature that CowSwap offers is the MEV protection, or maximal extractable value protection. What exactly is MEV protection, and how does CowSwap achieve this?
Cool, yeah. MEV, like you already said, stands for maximal extractable value. And this basically refers to the maximum amount that can be extracted from each individual person that is placing a trade today. And it's a huge problem, actually. This MEV is a phenomenon that basically has already cost our DeFi users millions, hundreds of millions of dollars just in the last year. And there are multiple forms of how this value can be extracted from users. I would say the most known one is front running. And that's actually something that doesn't only exist on blockchain, it also exists in the traditional finance world. Basically, it's like this concept of someone tries to be faster than someone else to get the better price. And this is also in TradeFi, a multi-billion-dollar business where, for example, in the US, for that reason, a cable was built between Chicago and the New York Stock Exchange just to get information milliseconds faster so that they could front run other traders and get the better prices. And this problem that exists also in TradeFi is even much more amplified on the Ethereum blockchain, because on blockchain, you don't have this time continuum, right? Because you have this block time, you only have you can only settle transactions every few seconds. So every time there's a block, transactions are being settled, but you don't have that continuum. And on top of that, the problem is even more amplified because you have the public mempool where easily everyone gets the information of what is the trade that you're trying to place. And on Ethereum, the transactions are ordered not by the time that they were placed, but ordered arbitrarily by whatever criteria the miners want to follow. And in most cases, what they do is they basically just look at they usually would just place the transaction first where they gain the most money from because they are having the highest gas fee. Now that means that either the miners themselves or anyone who's willing to pay this more money, a higher gas cost, to front run your transaction can do so to extract value from you. And there's different types of this value extraction. There's front running, there's also sandwiching, and there's back running, and even some like more crazy elaborate ways of extracting value from users are appearing because it's such a value bringing business that there's very smart, clever people who are trying to come up with even more sophisticated ways of extracting value. And well, getting back to the question of like how to fix this problem, there's different tools already available that try to tackle it. And the most prominent one, I would say, is flashbots, where users can essentially pay a fee to submit their transaction without getting the trading information leaked. Maybe a bit of a harsh way, but actually quite, I think, reasonable way of describing it is, let's assume that you're bribing the mafia. It's really like paying someone to ensure that they won't let the air of your car tires out. You know, it's like you're on the street and they're like, hey, give me $2, otherwise you know that your car is gonna not look as nice anymore when you come back. And this is kind of like the flashbot concept, right? Like you're bribing to ensure that your value is not taken. And this is basically something that we also integrate as last resource. So basically when we are not able to match the entire volume of different users directly within CowSwap and we have to set it on chain, we via our transfers our flashbots and also via Eden Network, which is another flashbots competitor, to make sure that our users are safe and that they are protected. But the main aim of CowSwap really is to reduce MEV rather than to pay bribes to protect our users. We believe that the goal should be to improve Ethereum and to reduce this value extraction rather than just ignoring that it happens and just try to live by with it by paying bribes. And for this, what we do is we match as many transactions as possible directly via these coincidence of ones, these cows, before we even have to submit them on chain. And by reducing the amount of volume that has to be matched against on-chain liquidity pools, we can significantly reduce the amount of money that is taken away from the retail users.
So basically this off-chain batching from starters reduces a good chunk of the probability. That's super interesting. Maybe now we'll look into solvers. I know solvers are play a central role for CowSwap. What exactly are solvers and how can someone become a solver?
Cool, yeah, this is super exciting. So essentially, yeah, let's start by answering first the first part of like what are solvers? What is the role that they play in the CowSwap ecosystem? And so what they do is they are the responsible party that look for the most optimal execution path for our users. So what CowSwap can do is it can split the user order, set it across multiple different AMMs. It can route them via any of the existing DEX aggregators. It can access private liquidity. It can also integrate RFQ systems with market makers to access even more liquidity. And it can find any sort of sophisticated route, even those that are including matching the trades directly against each other, or even including ring trades, where you have like even 3 or more tokens that are being traded in a ring. And the cool thing about CowSwap that this component that I just described is not developed by us, by our team, but every single person can participate in this. So it's set up as a competition where we can source external expert knowledge and reward everyone who's participating. And by basically everyone who's finding the best price is being rewarded. And this way, we not only tapping into the knowledge that our team has, but we're tapping into general knowledge that is out there, because there's obviously a lot of different crazy algorithms that can find even better execution routes. And it also very much depends on the type of order that is placed, whether one algorithm is working better than the other one. And for us, we figured to really scale this, to really ensure that we can always offer the best prices, let's crowdsource this expertise. And this is essentially exactly what the solvers do, is external parties who are looking always that they're competing against each other and finding the best optimal execution or the best prices for our users, and the one that wins receives a reward.
Now, I think it's time to introduce, since you offered a mini teaser with this, to the next part, which is the relationship between Balancer and CowSwap. In Q4 2021, it was the Balancer CowSwap partnership, or the BCP. This is basically the default trade interface on app.balancer.fi, and it uses the Balancer solvers that you just told us about. It integrates those with the Balancer vault to execute trades in batches. For people that need to know what the benefits of the Balancer vault, this basically separates the token accounting and management from the pool logic. The partnership between the two offered multiple benefits to users. We talked about gasless trades, MEV protection. Also, it offers best on-chain prices available. Maybe we cover, I guess we didn't cover this one, no gas fees charged for failed transactions.
Cool, yeah, maybe what to describe the partnership between Balancer and CowSwap, I would split it into 3 parts. So first of all, to really easily like demonstrate what's going on is essentially Balancer has integrated CowSwap in a way that if users are now going to Balancer the UI and they place a trade, that's being routed via CowSwap. And that means also that all the users that are trading via Balancer, they tap exactly into those benefits that CowSwap is offering. And those are exactly the ones that you just listed. And yeah, and then maybe to add to this, secondly, as part of this partnership, also a new solver was launched and joined this like competition of solvers in the CowSwap ecosystem. And yeah, this solver, what it does, it's basically optimizing the path finding specifically for Balancer pools. So it's also tapping specifically into the stable pools, the weighted pools, the liquidity bootstrapping pools. And they also got the native, so this is one big part where basically it's now optimized for specifically for single order trades to optimally settle against the Balancer pools. And then not only the special Balancer solver integrated the pools, but there's also a few other cool solvers that also integrated the Balancer liquidity. Yeah, and then yeah, lastly, maybe one other point to highlight is also that CowSwap is tightly integrated into the Balancer V2 smart contract, which then also allows for gas optimized usage of the Balancer pools for those single orders. And we call that the fast path settlement, where any single transaction that's going to be settled via Balancer liquidity can directly be settled there without any gas overhead. And then yeah, basically jumping back to the price benefits that we are like, not only the price benefits, but the general benefits that now everyone going to Balancer has is yeah, the MEV protection we already discussed, and the best on-chain prices that are available. And then I think what you were specifically curious about was not having to pay gas for failed transactions, right?
Yeah,
and
that might be interesting for the listeners.
Cool, yeah, this is essentially facilitated by this, the way that users are placing a trade is that they're signing a transaction, because you have in a way this like relay, where that this relay service of solvers that is looking for where to place the transaction for you and then executing the transaction for you. So as a user, you're just signing your order where you have all the order information, what's your limit price, what's the expiration time, what's your buy and sell token, and then the solvers are basically finding the best price for you. But they are taking over the execution risk for you. So that means if for whatever reason they fail to place the trade successfully, you as a user don't have to pay for it. Instead, what happens is that as long as your order is still valid, as defined by you when you place your order because you say when it should be expire. So as long as the order is still valid, the solvers will retry to submit the trade for you without asking you for any additional costs. The risk is completely taken over by the solvers.
This partnership is indeed very interesting, and user uses a lot of offers a lot of benefits on both parties for sure. Maybe so far most of these we talked about retail users and other users, but also DAOs are have a lot of benefits from using CowSwap. And I remember in ETH Denver, you talked about how DAOs can benefit from CowSwap. Maybe you can remind the listeners about those advantages.
Definitely, yeah. So I guess multisig and DAOs, they're very similar. In the sense that they usually have one big disadvantage when it comes to DeFi participation, which is that they are slow. So DAOs often have to go through a proposal phase of like 7 days or so. And multisigs, even if it's a bit faster than DAOs, but they also have the problem that you have to wait for like the co-signature of your team members. And it takes some time until your trade is actually placed and executed. And this makes trading in the market that is just the reality of it, that they're very volatile, makes it extremely difficult. So you basically just have the option that you have to set a huge slippage tolerance just to ensure that a trade doesn't fail. Or your trade might fail. And then if you set this huge slippage tolerance, you have, of course, again, this problem that the value can be extracted, that if you put a slippage tolerance of 3% or even much higher to ensure that your trade will be executed, then for sure it will be extracted by someone. And so basically that's money you just lose. And the nice thing is that, on CowSwap, this slippage is always protected. So no matter of how large of a slippage you are setting, the solvers at the time when they execute your trade, they will actually check what are the market prices, what's like a realistic slippage to use, and then they will only use that slippage that is needed to successfully execute your trade. And the remaining of your slippage tolerance is protected. And then I would say this is one big benefit for DAOs to use CowSwap. And then there's one other one, which is that when you place a trade on CowSwap, because of this relayer that I was just describing before, and that you basically let the solver execute the trade for you, you are not committing to a specific execution path when you place your trade. So unlike of any of the other existing protocols, like if you would go to 1inch, you start placing your trade via a DAO, it would tell you exactly this is the route your order is taking. And on CowSwap, you don't commit to it. You just commit to place the trade on whatever has the best price for you. So if it takes you 7 days to execute the trade, the solvers will then check at moment of execution what's the best possible route for you and go that way.
So basically everyone has time, especially I guess this is the most important thing, everyone has time to sign so the transaction goes through.
Yeah, exactly. Like it goes through, you have a high guarantee of that your trade actually gets executed without having value extracted from it.
That's great. I know in June, CowSwap launched Cow Grants program, but I'm wondering maybe what's something else you're enthusiastic about CowSwap's future development? Give us some alpha.
Sure. Yes, so much. Actually, we are just in the process of like finalizing our roadmap planning for the next few months, and a lot of cool things are coming up. So I mean, some things that I think some of the features that really a lot of people are requesting are deploying on layer 2, specifically on Polygon. And then there's also a lot of demand for limit orders. So we want to follow through on these ends. And then maybe looking into the future and like something like more like outside of the next 4 to 6 months. I think one thing that I'm also excited about is that generally we see that we're really moving into a future of multiple blockchains, where I'm sure the liquidity will also be fragmented across different chains. So therefore, it will become more and more relevant to also look more into cross-chain trading. And I'm really excited that we're currently partnering up with one external team that will be working on a solver that will be able to bridge liquidity over to other networks and then basically tap into more richer, deeper liquidity pools of other networks and bridge it back to the users. So that's one exploration where we are working on also that is a little bit more future driven.
That's really exciting. Anna, thank you so much. Thank you for helping us dive into CowSwap. I really enjoyed the conversation.
Likewise, thank you so much for having me. It was really nice.